Diablo 4, bad. Or maybe Diablo 4, good. Who knows? So many possibilities.
BlizzCon for Diablo 4 has mixed reviews from people right now. There's some people that are fairly positive about it, as we got good information on the first slide. In fact, this right here was the first 10 or 15 minutes of Diablo talked about on BlizzCon during day one, in which Rod came out here, talked about the Vessel of Hatred, the new expansion coming out, says there's a new class, seasons are having new content coming to it. I think they even mentioned the leaderboards, etc., throughout this present.
I'm fairly negative, I'm not gonna lie. I want everyone in the Diablo team just fired. Start over, okay? Let's skip season 3 and let's just start over. Because we're seeing just more Diablo 3 type of esque things. The ladder board, which literally no one is excited about except like 5 streamers and maybe 80 other people all around the world combined. And then there's maybe we need set items. And then there's now, oh, we're gonna give you the previous season 1 mechanic back, but in the form of a ring that a lot of classes are gonna 100% wanna have. So there you go. -1 slot for items. Are you happy now? No, I'm not happy. All of that seems extremely sad and bad, honestly.
And as you pick through here, you can see they had different discussions. They talked about the malignant rings either, and they did this all within a
Yeah, malignant rings, exactly. This is just -1 item slot forever for no reason. It's the dumbest thing ever. It is the dumbest thing ever. And if they, okay, I know some of you are thinking, well, just one time, this is fine. No, this is gonna happen 10 times. And it's going to turn into Diablo 3, where a lot of things might as well not exist because there's only one real option for literally every single class in the game. This is just the start. They're going to add 5 new things that are all going to be medium or undercooked, and then the game's going to just be unfixable garbage. And it starts with the malignant rings.
15-minute span of time. Now, this was pretty well received at the beginning because it was somewhat packed full of information in a fairly small amount of time and included confirmation of information that we had not yet received. Mostly, primarily, the fact that the expansion is confirmed. This was the first confirmation of sort of the leaks we had seen earlier. If you've been watching any of my videos, you know that they are that there were, I should say, some major leaks that were coming out that showed the expansion, new class called Spiritborn, and some other things as well that seem to be accurate so far as the information we've been provided shows.
Sounds good.
But it also added more by showing actual malignant rings and talking about how there's new content coming, not just within expansions, but also within this very season that we're playing. In fact, within just 2 days. And also they're going to continue to add more.
Essentially, by the way, I am in general 100% against anything in a game like Diablo or anything even remotely similar where one thing is the best for everything, okay? If you're going to play a Necromancer and there's not a single situation where you don't want a Malignant Ring because it automatically casts skills for you, well, then that should not be in the game, okay? If some, because it's a literal -1 to your item slots, you will never want anything but that under any circumstances, and that's gonna ruin the game because they can't add less of it. They're only gonna add more of it over time. So in season 5, maybe it's gonna be, well, yeah, now my ring slot is permanently taken by this, and there's nothing else I can ever replace it with, and my this slot is also taken by this because it's simply too good, and this and that slot is also replaced by that because simply there is never anything better than that.
And more things with each additional season. So they front loaded a lot of information there. So my initial impression and rating of this was pretty positive. I was like, wow, this is quite a bit of information. I'm liking all of this. This is like a 8 out of 10 for me. I mean, we're getting confirmation of an expansion of a new class. We're getting new things added into the season sooner rather than later. I like all of these, and some of these are direct requests that we have received. Like, can we get the corpse auto casting system for the necromancer, for instance? And they've added that into a ring. So there were things that directly we, the community, have asked for that they were announcing are coming to the game. So I was fairly positive upon release upon this. And then if you've been watching my live streams, by the way, we will actually be live right now as of the posting of this video,
Ooh.
which you can find in the description or the pinned comment, which is twitch.tv/Darth Microtransaction. Last reminder, the name of this channel will be changing to Darth Microtransaction, one word space TV. That way it'll be easier for people to find me on Twitch.
Makes sense.
But if you watched my reaction live while we watched the second half, this was the second day of BlizzCon in which the Diablo team came up here on the campfire chat in order to talk about, their creations that they have gone. The first bit of this, you could tell I was pretty bored. In fact, if I just move my camera and show you here, you can see here I'm kind of just sitting here doing a whole lot of nothing. Because there's fairly long
Nice.
introductions. Basically, the introductions, the meet and greet.
At least we have one hot girl.
Go on for like 5 minutes here of meeting the panel, and then the expansion is a whole from here 16 to 20 minutes. This is basically 14 minutes of talking about concept art and showing the expansion that Rod had sort of broken down of day one. So basically, by time that we had got into about 20 minutes into the campfire chat, it was already a little bit of a snooze fest at this point. Now, overall, I actually was fairly...
I don't know. How many people actually liked it? I think Diablo bad is still a viable thing in most people's mind. Now, Season 2 is still Diablo bad, but it's getting better. Again, Season 2 is still way better than anyone would have expected Diablo to get. But is it still good? It isn't. It isn't.
Positive about the campfire chat. But the reason I want to break down and kind of give more of an opinion about the overall experience on the BlizzCon is because this is a fairly decisive campfire chat and divisive campfire chat. It's decisive towards the future of Diablo 4 because it's the first BlizzCon in years, first one we've had talking about Diablo 4, and it has high expectations on it, right? However, it is a campfire chat, so it does feel like up to this point, 20 minutes into it, they kind of came to this with basically the same vibe as this is just yet another campfire chat that they would do on the Diablo channel, for instance. There wasn't a whole lot
It makes sense, honestly, that they would do it like that.
Of hype behind it. And to be fair, during a lot of his questions throughout this, there was a lot of dodging these types of questions. Now, even though I feel fairly positive about this, I watched Rax's video and listened to his opinion where he talks about how he had very hype expectations and he really had pushed it further for them. And he actually convinces me on a few of his points after watching this, because it is a little bit less exciting, for instance, than you would have expected out of a Diablo 4 BlizzCon panel. I was more kind of rating it based upon this is just a campfire chat, but when you put on the lens of this as BlizzCon, then it gets a little bit less exciting. Now, the content that they shared here was effectively more or less the same content that Rod had shared on day one, just expanded upon a little bit. Now, we did get a couple cool slides within here. Primarily this slide, which shows the way the new Bloodforge sigils will work. That you have this new in-game cycle of upgrading your blood.
Players complete the final season. Oh no! Players given a receipt to create Bloodforge sigil tier 1. Players craft use Bloodforge sigil blah blah blah. Drop the new Paragon glyphs blah blah blah. Players complete. Players complete tier. Okay, I mean, I'm not against this though. In general.
Sigil, they sort of do this new boss mechanic. That's the.
And by the way, why is adding, for example, the Blighted Hearts in a socket slot for your weapon not bad, but adding a ring is? Some of you may be wondering that. Well, that's simple. Because socket slots are currently not filled with anything even remotely interesting. They're just filled with gems that just are some kind of shitty percentile base increase for something that you don't really care, honestly, too much about. But yeah,
that's behind this new dungeon. You can do this and upgrade this to do up to 25 times, which upgrades your new Paragon glyph you only get from this, which can be upgraded up to 200 times. And so we have
wait.
I would call
Paragon glyph that can be upgraded 200 times. That's wild.
this like a Paragon level-esque from Diablo 3 way of continuing the grind. It's not infinite cap, but it's a new way that once you've completed basically everything that the game has to offer so far, you have further incentive to push your character farther and farther and farther.
Technically, that's fine. For people who want to push further and further, again, I am a fan of infinity power scaling systems where the rewards are, okay, I played for 8 hours, now my character has become 0.5% stronger. It's still a reward. It still feels good for people who are grinding and playing the game hardcore because, you know, after a couple of days, they are 10% stronger than everyone else. And they know it, and they can get stronger. But it's not so big and meaningful that, you know, people who don't do it are missing out and feeling like, wow, I'm getting shafted if I don't do this. I'm a fan of systems like that.
Farther and farther and farther. So I actually liked this part because out of everything, this part gave us the most new information. They also broke down the holiday event, gave us a little bit more information and videos on this. However,
am I the only one who hates holiday events, by the way? Absolutely. I think it's distasteful at the bare minimum when a game like Diablo suddenly says, let's celebrate Christmas. Here's a Christmas tree. Now go hit it. It turns into a monster. Who would have expected? Am I the only one who doesn't like holiday events?
Myself personally, I actually like holiday events. I don't know if you guys don't like these, do like these, what have you. I actually like holiday events that have cosmetics around it. That's just a subjective thing, but they're kind of fun. I don't think it's game changing.
Well, if they make it fun, yeah, but the problem is they're usually super generic. I don't like it. Well, unless they are like good. But again, usually they're like super generic. Kill monsters, get this random thing, and slight reward. Woo! Yeah, not my thing.
A temporary event that is only just for a temporary fun during Christmas season. It's not really a big deal. It doesn't really change the game any. However, what does change the game a little bit would be the season leaderboards. And the season leaderboards, personally, for me, were better than I was expecting. I had pretty low expectations. And maybe this is why I'm, not so upset about this one, but I actually thought the leaderboards looked pretty cool. I like the gauntlet system. I like this part right here where you can have these different rankings depending upon how far you actually got into this. You could have different rankings until you're into the top 1,000, etc. But this is where we start to get into the parts that I think...
But anyway, yeah, I leaderboards, please.
Think was a big miss, and I would be more harsher with my opinion on, which is the Q&A portion of this was fairly missed. They asked about the armory system, and during the armory system in particular, they ho-hummed and then said like maybe soon.tm. Itemization, the answer is we're not ready to talk about that yet. So I'm probably of the opinion this is BlizzCon and you're trying to hype it up. I appreciate the harder questions. It's cool that they address the harder questions, but they don't really address them. They kind of go around them by saying we're focusing on it, but we can't talk about what yet. So there's no information at all that's gained. It's just we are aware. And it's cool that they're aware. I actually liked it that Joe Shelley said he saw the Carbot animation that talks about the different affixes and how it's boring. You end up just throwing them all away because at least that means they're aware. Much like the fact that Joe's like, we're going to add in-game into Season 3, then in-game into Season 3, then in-game into Season 3, shows me that at least they're focusing on what, in my own personal opinion, again, my opinion doesn't change the game. It's just what I think. I think in-game and itemization are the two biggest issues. So when they ask questions like this Q&A here, I like to acknowledge that at least they're thinking about it and asking themselves these questions, but also because there's such major issues, when you don't get really phenomenal answers or they kind of ho-hum around them, it can be a negative feeling within the community, which is why we're getting a little bit of different opinions based upon this campfire chat here. So by about 52 minutes, they had wrapped it up. At this point, I was feeling fairly positive about the future of the game in terms of I like the things they were adding into the game because normally I'm pretty used to they add something to the game that actually makes it worse, like the nerfs we had before. So when I was looking at stuff, I'm like, oh, I like that's going to the game. I like that's going to the game. I still feel this way. I like the things that are coming to the game. But in terms of, did they drive hype around the Diablo 4 product during a BlizzCon? Probably not. I think that the intro on day one was much more
Yeah, that seems honestly on point.
hype than the campfire chat, in which people were inflated from the hype and looking forward to having more details about stuff that did look exciting. And we probably fell a little bit flat there on the hype scale, trying to get people basically sold on the future of Diablo 4. And I think this kind of comes from we have 5 people there on the panel, and they have some questions they can't really answer that they ask themselves anyway, which probably wasn't the smartest move, like the armory and the itemization. If you don't have answers for that, try to pick questions hopefully at least you do have answers for. But again, I appreciate them addressing the itemization, at least in the little bit manner that they did, but also by the fact that, not everyone's a good salesman, is the way I would put it. When Chris Metzen went on the stage for World of Warcraft, I don't actually like WoW Retail. I like WoW Classic, but I'm not really a big WoW Retail fan anymore. And when he was on the stage, he made me want to re-download and play the game, And I think a lot of people...
Same. Until we actually got to see, like, the things that are gonna be in the game, and it looked like, a bunch of pixies still fucking running everywhere, and again, another underground kingdom. No, thanks, but no, actually, I'll pass.
We're hoping for that same level of like passion and enthusiasm around the game when it comes to talking about the game on BlizzCon. And a lot of that is because people like myself have a lot of love for the game. We're playing Diablo. We're pretty committed into the game. We've got a lot of time into the game, love the game, and we want to see excitement from the people also producing the game too. And the tone was more nervous and scared than it was like excited and passionate and
well, good. At least they should be scared. Man, they have failed so much, they definitely should be scared. Anyway, I guess that's it for the video. No outro. That was our boy, DM Diablo 4. Dark Microtransaction. Also known as Skittles. Better known as Skittles. Anyway, this was Quizzer Sid saying thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.